Okay, so let's unpack this. We've got a really fascinating stack of material before us today.
Yeah, it's quite a collection, notes, logs, maybe some intercepted documents even.
Exactly. And it all pieces together this incredibly detailed look at, well, one very singular journey across some utterly unfamiliar seas.
It's less like a straightforward trip, though, and more like navigating a really complex, often hidden reality. We're seeing it through the eyes of the people caught up in it all.
Right. These sources let us piece together their fragmented perspectives.
Yeah.
So our mission for this deep dive is to take these scattered pieces, these fragments, and pull out the most important bits of knowledge.
We want to get at not just what happened, but why. What does it all reveal about the hidden currents of this world?
And what it meant for the people living through it. That's crucial. This deep dive is really about uncovering all those layers of information and, yeah, intrigue through these unique sources.
So where do we kick things off?
Well, the sources first put us right there on the coastline, near New Crobizon.
Ah, okay. Right where the river feeding the city starts to lose its energy, sort of slows down into that brackish estuary that flows into Iron Bay.
Yeah, exactly. And it immediately gives you a picture of a different side of New Crobizon, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Not the bustling metropolis.
No, it's lower, more rural feeling. You get descriptions of simple huts, rough jetties.
Rural workers fishing, kids waving kind of warily from the shore. It feels a bit on the edge, marginal.
And right next to that, you see the stubby end of the grain spiral, that massive agricultural engine feeding the city.
Right, you see the fields, people working them, burning stubble, even these bizarre barges puttering around on hidden canals between the fields.
It really highlights that blend, doesn't it? The rural and the engineered, which is so typical of this setting.
It's the specific, almost mundane starting point that kind of grounds us before the journey properly begins. The vessel for this eastward voyage is the Terpsichorea.
And it sets off from Tarmouth. The source is pretty blunt about Tarmouth calls it ugly and violent.
Yeah. Split by water, thousands commuting into the city daily. It's clearly not a tourist spot.
No, it's more of a hub for the rough and tumble types. Tramp steamers, freebooters who maybe can't afford the costs or duties of New Crabuzon proper.
You get that immediate contrast, right? Transient sailors on shore leave rubbing shoulders with the city's daily workers. Life aboard starts here, and it already feels a bit disconnected from the world they just left.
And among the passengers, one figure comes into focus pretty quickly. Bellis Coldwine.
Right. And her reason for leaving New Crabuzon isn't exactly a pleasure cruise.
No, definitely not. It's described as an urgent, almost frightening necessity.
The sources are pretty clear she's in some serious trouble.
Yeah, it seems linked to a sickness spreading in the city and also the militia. They're actively investigating people connected to someone she knew.
So she just needed to get far away, fast.
But what's really interesting is how reluctant she is. She thinks about other cities, but none feel right. Too close, too dangerous, too alien, or just too hard to reach.
She realizes she was, well, clinging to New Crabuzon, to what defined her. This escape isn't something she wants. It's forced on her by fear.
That really sets her motivation. And we also quickly meet Johannes Tierfly, who's a naturalist on the same ship.
Bellis has some early chats with him. He sounds like quite the character.
Oh, yeah. Tells stories about dangerous research trips, shows off scars from creatures like a sargula, a newborn chalkidree. He seems very absorbed in his work, almost detached from the reality of their situation.
We also go glimpses of other passengers. There's Sister Mariope.
Who Bellis calls the puking nun.
Right. And Silas Finnick, who seems a bit more reserved at this stage.
And an early frustration for Bellis pops up almost immediately, the captain deciding to sail early.
Captain Mizovich.
Mm.
For whatever reason, he gets his paperwork done ahead of schedule and just decides, right, we're sailing tomorrow, not dust day like planned.
Which seems like a small thing, but it has this huge impact on Bellis. It stops her going back to Parmouth to send this letter she feels is really important to a friend back home.
Yeah, she's told flat out of the question.
It's a small detail maybe, but for her, it instantly locks in that feeling of powerlessness. Trapped by circumstances already.
So the journey starts, and it quickly takes this, well, Unexpected, almost unbelievable turn when they get to Selker.
Oh, this part is amazing. A city built entirely underwater.
Right. The sources describe the submersible journey down, pitching into the water inside
Yeah.
this tight tangle of copper tubing and dials.
And then suddenly, boom, you're immersed in this completely alien city, Cray inhabitants haggling outside shops.
Shops decorated with undulating cloth, seaweed topiary like little underwater parks, giant sea snails acting as beasts of burden.
8 feet high, pulling carts, and kids playing games with caged fish. It's incredible detail.
It's presented very matter-of-factly, too, not like some perfect utopia. There are still patched-up houses, organic rubbish drifting about.
Yeah, it's a functioning, living city. But the key event here is the meeting between Captain Miéville and the Cray officials.
Miéville tries to explain why he took this unusual detour around a place called the Fens. Says he was ordered to check out some strange rumor.
And he's specifically concerned about vitally important investments. New Crobuzon's oil platforms, the rigs, down at the southern edge of the Fens.
But what's fascinating, and this is a real key insight from this scene, is how the Cray officials react.
They just stare at him, apparently, with this slow comic simultaneity, and basically say they have no knowledge of what you speak.
They seem totally focused on just negotiating mooring rights. That's all they care about.
Bellis is translating this whole exchange, right? And she catches the eye of her Cray counterpart, feeling this shared sense of like, what is going on here?
It highlights this huge disconnect. The captain's agitated about these distant oil rigs, and the locals are either genuinely clueless or...
Or they're playing dumb incredibly well. It really makes you wonder what New Crobuzon is actually up to out there.
The weirdness only ramps up after they leave Salker. The ship heads back south, past the Fins again.
And the captain is clearly agitated. He seems to be searching for something specific. Evidence of the sorghum, whatever the sorghum is.
And then, bam! Pirates.
Hmm.
A violent attack erupts seemingly out of nowhere.
Armored boats come speeding at them from one side, but the real threat pops up unexpectedly. This massive black submersible surface is right up against their hull on the other side.
It's described as incredibly brutal and fast. The crew barely stands a chance.
Yeah, the sources give some chilling details. Bodies savaged with an incredible number of wounds, heads just shredded flesh and bone, like overwhelming force.
This clearly isn't just random pirates looking for loot.
No. The pirate commander, this sad-faced man in gray, who we later learn is Uther Dole, gives very clear orders. It becomes obvious pretty quickly that the ship itself was the target.
Bellis realizes her escape ship, the Terpsichorea, was deliberately captured. Her whole attempt to flee New Crobuzon has just landed her smack bang in the middle of someone else's plan.
And this capture takes them somewhere truly unbelievable, Armada, the floating pirate city.
I mean, the scale of it is just hard to grasp from the descriptions. Hundreds of ships, all reconfigured, lashed together.
Forming this sprawling cityscape that covers almost a square mile of sea. Masts, chimneys, converted hulls, ships of every kind imaginable, stripped longships, giant steamers, even alien vessels.
It feels less like it was planned and more like it just grew organically. It incorporates captioned ships, like the Terpsichorea itself gets assimilated eventually, built upon, becomes part of the city fabric.
And the culture described, it's this mix, isn't it? Brutal mercantilism on the surface, weapons everywhere, stocks, whipping posts.
But then, surprisingly, there's this whole layer of organization. Bureaucracy, typed contracts, offices, they even have their own currency. Eyes, flags, finials.
It's not the simple base plutocracy Bellis expected. There are other logics at work, as the source puts it.
But despite all that complexity, her first overwhelming feeling is crystal clear.
Yeah, it was a prison, and she's told point blank she will never leave.
So Bellis is forced into this new life within Armada. And her assigned job, working in the city's massive library.
Can you imagine cataloging endless books in all these different languages, Salt alphabet, Ragamuffin script, High Kedai, running her fingers along miles of shelves?
Seeing the names of long-dead owners, she feels encased in stolen books.
Her first reaction is just deep resentment, obviously. But the city admin has this weird formality about it, this mumming of legality, even for the people they've basically kidnapped.
Yeah, she's assigned a room, but she has to pay rent for it weekly from an advance on her wages. The permanence of it all sinks in really fast.
And she's not the only one press-ganged. We meet others, like Tanner Sack. He's a human remade dock worker.
And being remade in this world, we should clarify, usually means someone's been altered surgically, magically, often as punishment, their body reshaped for a specific job. Tanner's remade nature becomes pretty important later on.
Right, and there's also Shekel, the former cabin boy from the Terpsichorea.
Bellis's interactions in Armada start to show us a lot about her struggle, and also how differently people cope with this situation.
Her relationship with Shekel is really quite poignant. It starts off cautious, but then she starts teaching him to read.
Using children's books like The Courageous Egg.
And his pure excitement, discovering the written word, learning new languages. It's such a stark contrast to the grim reality they're in.
She also runs into Johannes Tierfly again.
Ah, yes, the naturalist. And this is where you see a totally different kind of adaptation. Johannes seems to adjust incredibly quickly.
He finds work he calls fascinating radical research. He's eager to learn, solve, read everything he can get his hands on.
And this ready acceptance really alienates Bellis. She feels frustrated, almost angry that he seems okay with their captivity, while she's still desperate to get back to New Crobuzon.
She has this painful thought that she was alone in wanting to escape.
We also get glimpses of other characters trying to navigate Armada, like Demjuri, a failed merchant sharing Johannes's cabin.
So amidst all this brutal, complex city life, there's this massive project taking shape, driven by the ruling faction, the Garwater Riding.
Right. This is all centered around the Avank, this colossal creature from the deep sea that they plan to, well, interact with somehow.
A key structure involved is called the sorghum reg. It's constantly active, billowing fire and what the sources call thaumaturgic wash.
Which is basically raw magical energy discharge, right? Part of the industrial processes in this world.
Exactly. And part of this whole project involves accumulating something called rock milk.
Which sounds intense, described as incredibly dense, cold, valuable as magma, packed with thaumaturgons, the basic units of magical energy, worth many times its weight in gold.
And Silas Fennec, that quiet passenger from the start, he offers this crucial, cynical insight. He tells Bellis that ships don't actually use rock milk for fuel.
Ah, okay. So that's the key, isn't it? Whatever they're stockpiling this incredibly valuable, energy-dense stuff for.
It's not just to keep their vessels trim. It's for something much, much bigger, more significant, and probably much more dangerous than just powering ships.
This whole escalating project then leads to a critical mission, and Bellis gets dragged along, specifically because she can translate Haiketai.
Right. One of the languages she knows from her library work. She travels on an aeroset, basically a big airship called the Trident.
Along with Johannes, a group of scientists and engineers and guards, including Tintinabulum and significantly Uther Duel, they're heading to the Anaphili Island.
The island sounds unpleasant. Intense heat, constant insects, weird sounds, thick jungle, nasty pools.
Yeah, a really hostile place. And the inhabitants, the mosquito people, or Anaphili, sound genuinely terrifying.
The women are described as ravenous, blood-drinking predators.
While the men are physically weaker but contemplative, intellectual, living in a separate township.
It's the Anaphili men who had this complex culture, using high Kedai to record knowledge. Interestingly, their access to outside information is controlled by foreign publishers.
Another layer of external influence, even out here.
The reason for this dangerous trip: they're looking for one specific NFA scientist named Croak Aum.
And Bellis's translation skills are vital. She's basically the conduit for the Armadan scientists and engineers who are interrogating Aum, trying to fill in gaps from his damaged research notes about the Avank.
And here's where things get really interesting. During this back and forth, they discover Aum's lost book.
Which was back in Armada's library the whole time, bizarrely shelved in the children's section because it had illustrations.
Bellis, with her language skills, starts going through this book written in High Kedai, and she has that aha moment. She sees this one particular picture.
A massive eye under a boat, an eye so huge it dwarfs a yacht shown next to it for scale.
And she realizes this isn't about summoning the Avank. The picture represents towing the creature.
Boom, that's the critical revelation. The true plan isn't just to call the Agonk up, it's to harness it somehow and move it somewhere specific.
And when you combine that with the captain searching for evidence of the sorghum near the fins earlier, and the sheer amount of rock milk they're hoarding,
it becomes terrifyingly clear. Armada isn't just planning a ritual. They're planning to physically transport something enormous, and they're heading towards a specific, dangerous place.
Which is heavily implied to be the Scar.
So while all this Avank stuff is unfolding, there's another layer of plotting going on involving Silas Fennec.
Yeah, that quiet passenger. Turns out he's much more than that.
The sources reveal he's actually a spy, an agent working for New Crobuzon. He got press-ganged into Armada just like the others, but he had a mission gather intelligence.
And he comes up with this incredibly risky plan to send a message back home. It involves stealing a special lodestone from the compass factory.
Which is described as being guarded tighter than a king's treasury, so high stakes.
He plans to use a pirate captain, Sanka, a cactus man from Dreer Samher, who has this weird arrangement where he sometimes trades with New Crobuzon's government.
So Senka is supposed to deliver this message, plus a package with Silas's notebook and a necklace.
And Tanner Sack, the remade dock worker, gets pulled into helping him.
Which puts Tanner in a terrible spot. He helps Silas get the lodestone and agrees to deliver the package to Senka, but he's clearly terrified and conflicted about the whole thing.
Yeah.
His involvement here really sets him on a different path.
All these simmering plots just explode when New Crobuzon battleships suddenly show up.
The NCS Morning Walker is identified. They initially request parley, claiming they're there about a New Crobuzon hostage.
Clearly meaning Bellis.
But any talk of parley just evaporates. It immediately descends into a brutal sea battle.
The descriptions are horrific. Chaos, ships becoming charnel houses, the water filled with savage bodies, entrails, like waving coral. Just awful.
And a central figure in this fight, a truly terrifying one, is Uther Dole, the sad-faced pirate leader.
His fighting style. It's described as something else entirely. He uses the possible sword.
Which isn't just a sword. It's powered by some kind of clockwork engine that apparently mines possibilities, allows him to create multiple potential strikes at once.
Making him seem utterly unstoppable as he just carves through the New Crobuzon sailors. Mining possibility seems to mean, like, accessing or manipulating potential futures or outcomes. Insanely hard to fight against.
Tanner Sack gets involved too, using his remade abilities in the water to attack NC sailors from below. He sees the horror firsthand, but from underwater.
Bellis watches all this from Armada. Horrified, obviously, but also kind of morbidly fascinated by Duel's terrifying effectiveness. Her potential rescuers are just being turned into litter.
And as if that wasn't enough chaos, there's a simultaneous internal conflict erupting within Armada itself.
Right. The Brucalak, he's the vampire leader of the Dryfall Riding, tries to stage a coup against the ruling levers of the Garwater Riding.
His motives seem tied to his deep disagreement with the levers and their increasingly dangerous plans involving the Avank and heading towards the Scar.
The sources describe this internal fighting as incredibly brutal, too. Just another layer of violence and instability ripping through the city.
And into this twin chaos, the external battle, the internal coup, a terrifying third party intervenes. The Grandilo.
These are deeplings from the Jungris, these mysterious deep-sea places. At first, it looks like they might be siding with the Brucalak.
But their real reason is quickly revealed. They don't care about the coup. They're after Silas Fennec.
They want his notebook, the one he was trying to send back to New Crobuzon.
Because it apparently contained valuable intelligence about Grandilo plans, coastal weaknesses. Stuff Silas must have dug up through his spying.
The Grindylos are described as terrifying. Breaching briefly, but just devastatingly effective, splitting bodies open. Fennec is confronted by them.
And despite his own capabilities, he dies in the encounter, killed by the very creatures whose secrets he was trying to expose, who are trying to get that knowledge back.
So the fighting eventually stops. The dust, or maybe the sea spray, settles, and the outcomes are bloody.
The New Crobuzon fleet. Pretty much destroyed or routed, though Armada does manage to capture a few of their ships.
The Brucalak's coup, total failure. His vampire lieutenants are defeated, he's captured, and his punishment is specific and brutal.
Left exposed to the deadlight, the sun. Lethal for vampires in this world.
Armada itself suffers huge casualties, huge trauma from both fights. But the sources emphasize that the civil conflict, the fighting inside the city.
That was somehow far more traumatizing than the external battle against New Crobuzon.
Bellis witnesses all this horror. She's starting to process the sheer scale of death and violence she's been caught in. Tanner's also reflecting on his actions, attacking those sailors underwater, and the terrible cost paid by everyone.
But despite all this devastation, Armada keeps going. It moves into this new, strange, terrifying sea the sources call the empty or hidden ocean.
Yeah, a sea defined by unpredictable currents, untrustworthy engines, and dangerous, unseen things lurking just beneath the waves.
The Avank, though it was injured in all the fighting, continues to pull the city northward, deeper into this unknown territory. Scientists are desperately trying to figure out this alien environment.
But what really cranks up the fear and unease spreading through the city is the desertion of Hedrigal.
Right. He was this respected Cacticay aeronaut, a skilled airship captain who'd guided journeys before. His sudden disappearance really shakes people's trust in the leadership.
Hedrigal's desertion, and then his eventual return or capture, it's a bit unclear, becomes this massive turning point. It's fueled by rumor and sheer terror.
Because his account, or at least the version of it that circulates, is absolutely terrifying. He claims he reached the very edge of the scar.
And he describes it not just as like a big trench, but a crevice in the sea, a literal crack in the fabric of the world listing across the horizon.
Teeming with raw energy, possibilities, causing weird weather, spitting out strange objects. It sounds like a wound in reality itself.
His story, whether it's totally accurate or maybe manipulated, somehow spreads panic. It deepens the doubt about where the lovers are really taking them and why they'd go anywhere near this obviously world-breakingly dangerous place.
This rising tide of fear and doubt leads to this pivotal moment, and unexpectedly, it's led by Tanner Sack.
Tanner finds Bellis. She's still reeling, trying to process everything, including the death of Shekel, the cabin boy he tried so hard to protect during the fighting.
Tanner is Sully. Well, he's changed by everything he's seen and done. The battle, the coup, the grindy low, Silas dying, Shekel dying.
He's also empowered, isn't he? By the knowledge he picked up from Croakamum about the Avon's harness, and maybe just by the sheer gut-level terror of the scar being so close, he decides he has to act.
He confronts the ruling lovers directly, right in front of a big gathering of citizens. He demands they produce the real Hedrigal.
And crucially, he exposes how Duel has been manipulating things, specifically how Duel presented or maybe twisted Hedrigal's story.
It's this incredible moment of leadership from someone you wouldn't expect. The citizens' loyalty, already shaky, just snaps, based on Hedrigal's terrifying story and their own fear of the scar.
It actually works. The city physically starts to change direction. The Avonk responds to this shift in collective will and starts pulling them back towards the safer known waters of the swollen ocean.
And this dramatic turnaround finally lets us and Bellis see the incredibly complex, layered plan Uther Duel had been running all along.
He wasn't just some loyal mercenary following the lover's crazy ambition. The sources show he actually sought out Armada years before, came there deliberately.
All his actions, engineering the Terpsichore's capture, making sure Bellis was brought to Armada, his involvement with the Avonk project, the trip to the Enophalia.
Even how he handled Hedrigal's story. It was all part of this incredibly intricate manipulation.
He used Bellis, her translation skills, her accidental involvement with Silas's message attempt. He used Hedrigal's terrifying account of the scar, maybe twisting it just enough, or releasing it at just the right moment to maximize fear.
He might have even used the lover's own ambition, their desire to exploit the scar, to get the city moving that way in the first place.
But his goal wasn't to reach the scar like the lovers wanted. It was to get Armada just close enough to trigger a crisis.
A wave of fear and panic among the population, strong enough to force the city to turn away from the scar back towards the swollen ocean.
His own background, his knowledge of places like High Cromlech where reality is fractured, his understanding of possibility mining, it likely gave him a deep sense of how truly dangerous the scar was. His real aim, it seems, was to save Armada from destroying itself.
So where does this leave Bellis after this insane, brutal journey? It doesn't end with a simple escape or rescue at all.
No, it ends with this complex, manipulated rerouting of the entire city.
In the final scenes described, she's chained up, back in a meeting room, interestingly, with Tanner Sack. They're both awaiting judgment for their perceived roles and everything, especially that message attempt with Silas.
She's grappling with just how thoroughly Duel used her, but she also seems to acknowledge her own actions, her own agency, and the completely unintended consequences. Her desperate attempt to get a message to New Crabuzon accidentally helped turn Armada towards it in the end.
She accepts her situation now. Armada is heading back towards the swollen ocean. The sources imply a waiting fleet will welcome them back, maybe absorb them.
The journey was undeniably brutal, traumatic, full of loss like Shekel, but it achieved, bizarrely, the outcome she originally wanted, heading back towards her homeworld, even though she's still trapped inside Armada.
And her final act described is renewing her commitment to writing that letter. But it's different now.
Yeah, it's no longer about trying to get it delivered. It's become something else, a full, unvarnished account of everything she's experienced, a way to process the impossible journey she somehow survived.
And so This deep dive into these sources ends, well, not neatly. It ends with this complex, maybe even unsettling, redirection of an entire city.
We've really followed some intricate threads here, haven't we? Individual motivations, global politics, ancient tech, even brushes with reality-breaking phenomena like the scar.
What began as Bellis just trying desperately to escape one city.
Led to imprisonment in another, getting
Right.
tangled up in this impossible project, a devastating battle, a brutal civil war, massive unintended consequences.
And a near-fatal encounter with a literal wound in the world.
We've seen how fragmented knowledge, deliberate manipulation, unexpected courage from, ordinary people like Tanner, and just sheer terrifying chance can all twist together.
Yeah, to completely change the course of a floating city and all the lives trapped inside it.
This journey is a powerful reminder, I think, that even when you're drowning in information or facing impossible situations, the key insights might be hiding in plain sight.
Or maybe they only come clear through the crucible of terrifying experience.
It definitely leaves us with a big question to chew on, doesn't it? When you're faced with confusing information, hidden agendas, choices that feel way beyond you, how do you even begin to figure out the true motivations at play?
And maybe even more profoundly, after a journey you never chose takes everything from you, what does it really mean to find your way back home? Especially if home isn't what or where you ever imagined it would be.